everyone, today I'm creating some birthday cards using products from Paper Rose, and I'm going to also be using the Call Me Crafty SheetLoad of Card template for March 2024. I am part of the collaboration team, so you can check out the other contributors' videos using the hashtag on the screen or the playlist below. Now, in terms of how many cards I'm going to make today, I'm not using the entire paper pack, but I did do the math to figure out how many cards I could get from this A5 paper. There are 2 of each pattern, and what I worked out when I did my maths on the right-hand side on that notebook is if I have 4 sheets of paper for the main component of the cards, and then I offset that with 1 extra sheet of something that contrasts, between those 5 sheets, I can create one kind of bundle. So you can see here, I'm trying to match it up, and this single piece needs to match with both of the other designs that I have in my hand. So I needed things that would contrast, and given that these are, well, the paper's called industrial, they're quite dark and grungy looking, and I did a good job on most of the cards with the color design, but I will show you one where I probably should have separated the colors a little bit more so that there was a stronger contrast. Now, I've cut all of these panels down, and I'm not going to go through the sizing, etc. You can get that from the sketch itself, but it's important to know that I was able to get enough for 2 cards from 1 sheet, and I did the big piece and the middle piece, and then the smaller piece all came from that extra piece of pattern paper. I hope that makes sense. Now, as a reminder, Paper Rose papers come in multiple sizes. You can get 12 by 12 scrapbooking size sheets. You can get A5 where they're single-sided like this pack, and you get 24 sheets, so 12 designs by 2. And their 6 by 6 papers have 12 designs, but they're double-sided, so you have 6 by 3, so 18 sheets. So for me, I find that the A5 is absolutely the best value. Now you can see me putting these cards together, and I've got the 4 by 4 square that I'm attaching first. And this one I've used double-sided tape. So I grabbed it, threw it on the back. This pattern paper is nice and thick and heavy, which means that you don't have any trouble with it showing through. If you had a very, very thin piece of pattern paper, then sometimes if you use double-sided tape, it puts a little bit of a divot in the paper, but definitely not with Paper Rose. They are very similar to Brutus Monroe, if anyone has worked with their papers before. They're a little bit shiny, and they are definitely a heavier weight. So you can see here, I'm just running through and I'm putting the biggest piece, which is the 4 by 4, and then I'm attaching the smaller panel on the end, and it has that split design for the base layer. I've now moved on to do the panel that is going to float on top of the card. So for me, this is going to have a white outline and a white border, and I'm fitting 2 of these medium-sized pieces onto each of this scrap cardstock. This was just left over from a previous project and was just the perfect size for me to be able to mount these up and do a border around the edge that's somewhere between 1/4 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch. I do a little bit of a hybrid. So the way that it works out is I use the guide on my trimmer here, the clear plastic, and I line up the pattern paper with that, and then that gives me the perfect width around the edge of anything that I'm matting. So I've now got a good feel for where to attach the pattern paper on the white, and then when I'm cutting this down, it is super easy and super fast because I really don't have to think about it. I just line it up to the cutting guide, the cutting plastic on the trimmer, and it all looks after itself. Now the A5 paper that I'm using today and the pack is called Industrial, again from Paper Rose, and then the elements that I'm going to use to decorate these cards is called Dad's Shed, and they're the Paper Rose die cuts. I will put links below to both of them, and they will be affiliate links, so if you use those, I will get a small commission at no cost to you, but I'm just popping them below so it's nice and easy for you to find if you would like to recreate the cards, or if there's something on here that you think would suit your style. Now, the thing I love about Paper Rose is things seem to match up beautifully even if they're from a different collection. I will say that removing the die cuts is not my favourite thing, but these ones, there seem to be quite a lot of bigger elements as opposed to when I've done things like butterflies and others where you get a lot more of the die cuts, but they're a lot smaller and fiddlier. So I'm either getting used to it or I was just a lot quicker this time. So I did not have too many problems getting these ready to go. I have had people suggest that you can just pull them out and then use a sanding block to get rid of the little nodule on the edge. So if you are having problems chopping them out or it's too fiddly, then that might be something that you can also try. Now, for these particular cards, every card is going to look different because I've only got one set of the die cuts. And I've lined these up, and you can see I've got 4 cards at a time with the same paper and layout. And I've got a whole pile of happy birthdays and then a whole bunch of, just for you and you're so awesome encouragement statements on my desk. And I'm just running through and trying to figure out what will partner up, how do I put it onto the card, where do I put the sentiment? Because I'm using a white sentiment on top of quite dark colors here today, I found it super, super easy to line things up and just make sure that they offset. And having such a small little rectangle in the middle of the card front means that it's a little bit easier, in my view, to create a focal point because you're not dealing with the whole 5.5 by 4.25 inch front of the card. You're really just doing an interest point in the middle. When I went through and created these, I did not pre-plan them before recording. I just sat down with these and went, what are the bigger obvious ones? Can I put some of them on either some spare cardstock or some foam tape? And then I did the easy ones first. For the ones that are a little bit more related to gardening, I just did some little collections like this and just grabbed things that seemed similar or seemed relevant to each other and then put those together on the same card. So you can see on my desk, I've got all of the tractors together. I had all of the gardening elements, which was the pots and pans and the gloves and the gardening forks. Did I just say pots and pans? What I meant is the clay pots. Sorry. And so I'm working through those, and I just challenged myself to not think about it too much. I think when you create a little cluster of elements on a card, it can get a little bit overwhelming as to which ones you place where and how you do it. And the way that I solved that today was by just popping a few things up on some foam squares, and then it allowed me to tuck a few more things underneath, and then that created just a really nice balance. And for the most part, I tried to leave a little bit of a gap so I could put in a sneaky sentiment. So on that previous one, you could see I clustered everything down the bottom left, and then there was space for the sentiment up the top. Now that I'm moving on to the tractors, I have just offset it again on the left-hand side and tried to use a color that's a bit different to what it's going on top of. So you can see I put the blue tractor on top of the yellow and black paper. And then there's always a spot that you can fit a sentiment. You can pop it down the bottom, you can put it up in the top corner. There is generally always an answer. For these tractors, they took 2 seconds. I literally threw the tractor on, had these sentiments ready to go, and my cards were complete. I think with the boldness of this paper, and then that being offset with the die cuts, which are a little bit lighter tone, is a really good balance. And you really don't have to overwork the cards to create something that people are going to really enjoy. I'm really curious, do you create the SheetLoad cards, or do you just like watching people who are creating crafty content? I'm never really sure how many people actually use the template themselves and then get ideas from watching our videos versus people who are just crafting along and watching crafty videos at the same time. So maybe drop a comment below and let me know if you actually create cards or if you just like enjoying watching craft style videos. I'm very, very curious. All right, you can see now that I'm starting to get to the point where the bigger elements have all been used, and I'm really relying on more of the small items to create some clusters. This is where I start to get out of my comfort zone completely, and I feel like I'm just zigzagging things across the page. And the reality is, I guess I am. But I just decided that the more you do it, the better at it you're going to get. And as long as I use the theory that maybe less is more sometimes, like I don't know that I needed to add that screwdriver, but if I'm anchoring something on the left, something on the right, maybe popping something up, and then really making sure that I leave space for my sentiment, everything really did work out in the end. It was not a problem. Each of the cards is unique. I think these are really going to be enjoyed. Recently, there was a collaboration between Alicia from Call Me Crafty and the SheetLoad templates, and Cards by Kendra with the quarterly Kendra's Card Challenge, and I completed it. The video that I created was more of a how-to guide, how to complete Kendra's Card Challenge in 5 easy steps, and I included 28 hints and tips along the way. So if you want to check out that video, I've included the link. Have a great day.